The definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's a saying, more so a definition, that I think is overused to the fullest extent when people talk about sports. However, in the instance of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it feels like the perfect definition of what they've become. A team that does the same things over and over and over and wonders why, at the end of it all, they wind up 9-8 and either missing out on the playoffs or bowing out in the first round. It's something that reared its head once again on Sunday afternoon at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers lost by a final score of 26-7, a game in which they led at half. They were up 7-3 at halftime. And I understand the Buffalo Bills are not the world beaters that they have been over the past couple of seasons. The Buffalo Bills came into this game without their starting right tackle and their starting left tackle. But at the same time, to hold that offense, an offense that only twice this season has been held under 20 points, to just 3 in the first half of that game, you had to feel good if you were the Pittsburgh Steelers in the locker room. And then what happened? The same thing that's happened time and time again. The other team comes out with adjustments, punches back, starts to mount a comeback, and the Steelers just don't have a counterpunch. The very first play of the second half, strip sack, fumble, takes it to the house, and the Steelers all of a sudden, who were clinging on to a 7-3 lead, are all of a sudden in the blink of an eye down 10-7. The next drive, Mason Rudolph's in because Aaron Rodgers took that strip sack fumble on a massive hit from Joey Bosa. The only thing that he could not do, the only thing that you're hoping he doesn't do, is throw an interception or turn the ball over. A 3-and-out would have been preferred from Mason Rudolph. Instead, what does he do? He throws it into triple coverage. He overthrows a 6'7" tight end in Darnell Washington, and he gives the Buffalo Bills offense, an offense that had been running the ball well, but had still yet to be able to finish drives by scoring points. They give them a short field and an opportunity to catch their footing. Not only do they do that, they score a touchdown, go up 16-7, but they don't turn back. 23 unanswered points by the Buffalo Bills and no response, no pushback from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's something that we've seen be a consistent issue all season long. The Steelers, whenever they have a lead going into halftime and the other team makes an adjustment and punches to start the third quarter, the Steelers don't punch back. Steelers have a lack of fight whenever it happens, and all of a sudden they look around and they're losing. This week it happened. It was pretty evident. But it also happened last week. Steelers are up 21-17 on the NFC leading Chicago Bears on the road. They wind up losing that game 31-28. Week 10, maybe not the same example, but the defense had been playing well against the LA Chargers. They were only down 12-3. They were holding on, waiting for the offense to kind of get their crap together and be able to start mounting the comeback. That comeback never came because the LA Chargers had a good drive to start the third quarter. 25-10 was the final score there. You go all the way back to week 8. Steelers are up 16-7, and boy, did that one go in the opposite direction fast. They lose that game 35-25. And you could go even further back to week 2 of this season, where the defense was playing extremely well against a good Seattle Seahawks team, up 14-7 at half. The Seahawks come out, have a great drive to start the third quarter, and that's all she wrote for the Steelers. They lose 31-17 in that instance. 5 of the 6 losses were the same exact script. And that all points back to one person that has to take the majority of the blame. Maybe not all the blame. Obviously, a lot of it goes on the players. But the figurehead, the man who has to take the brunt of the blame in these situations, is the head coach of the football team. Which begs the question, is this latest collapse something that has become a tradition for the Steelers, something that has become routine for them over the past 2 years. Is this latest one the final straw for Mike Tomlin? Clearly not, because it is Tuesday morning and he's still the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then again, I don't think anybody expected anything different. The Steelers are not going to fire Mike Tomlin in the middle of the season, no matter how many chants there are in the middle of the game at Acrisure Stadium. They're not firing him in the middle of the season. But the lack of fight, the ease at which it seems this team throws up the white flag is concerning. It's concerning that it happened on Sunday. It's concerning that it's happened multiple times this season. It's concerning that it happened last season. In those last 5 games of the year where they couldn't get a victory to save their life, it's concerning that it's happened over multiple years with multiple different players in that locker room. It may be time for new leadership in Pittsburgh. I don't know if we're going to get it. If I had to guess, we're not going to. Unless they continue to lose week in and week out to close out the season, I don't think Mike Tomlin goes anywhere. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it when it comes to Art Rooney, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin parting ways. I just don't think it's going to happen. However, I think it would be best for both the players, the team, and the coach himself. We've seen it in Pittsburgh over this past year. We saw it with the Pirates. Derek Shelton gets removed. Don Kelly comes in, and while that team didn't go on to make the playoffs, they didn't go on to have a winning season, they had a much better season under Don Kelly than they would have had and they were having under Derek Shelton. Maybe a more similar comparison is to what's happening in Uptown with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They move on from Mike Sullivan after a very successful tenure as the head coach of that team, somebody who won championships early in his tenure but just wasn't able to get the job done. They move on from him, and while the Penguins aren't world beaters this year, they're back in playoff contention, something that they were nowhere near at the end of last year under Mike Sullivan. So maybe Mike Tomlin just becomes the latest in a long line of Pittsburgh head coaches to need a fresh start. And I think it would be good for him. I think it would be good for the team. But whether or not that happens, I have a hard time believing it. I don't think he's on the chopping block. But what he should be is coaching for his job. The last 5 weeks of this season, the Steelers are 6-6 right now. They're tied for first in the AFC North. And that's really their only recourse to getting into the postseason. They're going to have to win the AFC North. I don't know if there's going to be a wild card position for them as this season wears on. You're looking at a team in Buffalo that just came in and ran it down your throat using the same play over and over again. And they're, I believe, the 7th seed as of right now. So you're going to have to win the division. And you're going to have to do that by beating the team that's in front of you. 60 minutes. Twice against the Baltimore Ravens. If he's not able to get the job done, it may just be time for Mike Tomlin to move on from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know in the comment section, do you think that Mike Tomlin's time is running out in Pittsburgh? Do you think that he should be coaching for his job the final 5 weeks of this season? And do you think if the Steelers miss the playoffs, even with a winning record, if they miss the playoffs, do you think Art Rooney will finally do what nobody believes he'll do and move on from the longest tenured head coach in the NFL? It'll be interesting. It'll be something that a lot of people are going to be keeping their eyes on when it comes to the end of this calendar year and the end of this NFL regular season. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Remember, if you like this content, to like, share, and subscribe at Nick Belsky on YouTube. That's it for this one. We'll see you guys next time.